Let's look ahead to Monday, the first day of Week 6 in the NBA. What's on my radar? Streaming targets. And Buddy Hield goes under the lens. Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily fantasy basketball podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and it's time to renew my Mariah Carey fan club membership. And I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com. And you can find me on Twitter, as always, at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest and the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use the code all lowercase LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. Thank you also for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free and we are available on all platforms. Monday, 8 games on. It is a streaming day for us. Not 8 games, sorry. 5 games on. What am I talking about? It's 8 games on Sunday. 5 games on Monday. Very good streaming day. We know we're streaming Monday through Friday this week because the weekend is not ideal. 12 games Saturday, 0 Sunday. We're looking to get our streams in early on in the week. So let's talk about what we're looking ahead to in Monday for the games there. And we will just start by getting a bit of an injury update, and we'll start with looking at the Lakers. Rui Hachimura is out. Gabe Vincent is out. We did just get an update right now that, as usual, LeBron James is questionable. Anthony Davis is probable. I never include them on this list. They just put them there every game. But Cam Reddish is questionable now, and Jared Vanderbilt is officially out. I don't know how long it's taking for Vanderbilt to come back. I thought he was likely to come back early start of last week, but I don't know. He's still out. Kelly Oubre, I'm expecting to be out. I haven't heard that official, but I am currently listing him out. Trey Murphy, Matt Ryan are out for the Pelicans. BJ Boston remains out for the Clippers. I also don't expect that CJ McCollum returns, although his return is imminent. At the moment, I'm going to list him doubtful. There is a chance that CJ does play in this one, and the same goes with the headmaster Jamal Murray. Murray has been ruled out of Sunday's game for the Nuggets. There is an opportunity, I guess, for him to be back on Monday. I really don't think he will be. I think maybe it's more the end of the week, but I don't know that at this point. Bojan Bogdanovic and Joe Harris, I'm going to put them as questionable for the Pistons. I think that Bogdanovic will be back. He practiced on Thursday. This is the last I heard, and got ruled out for Friday, but he should be returning. Harris, not sure that really matters that much. Jordan Poole missed the last game for the Wizards. He is still officially questionable. He sprained his ankle in warm-ups. Really frustrating situation. People will complain about the Wizards being trash, and this wasn't the Wizards' fault. They are trash, but this wasn't their fault. The problem is, if you're playing DFS or lineups and that sort of stuff, is that the way that the NBA schedules these games, guys, literally the easiest fix in the world, NBA, and I don't know why you don't fix it, is that they advertise a start time. Let's say it was 7 p.m. Eastern. So daily fantasy sites lock at this time. Fantasy lineups lock at this time because that's the starting time the NBA announces. But at 7 p.m., they're going through warm-ups. The game's not tipping at 7. So it says 7 p.m. start time. Jordan Poole's out there warming up. Sprains his ankle. He get late scratch, legitimate. Sprained his ankle in warm-up, legitimate, injured, late scratch, out of the lineup. But you can't change it in fantasy. You can't make a DFS adjustment because the game's officially started when it hasn't. That is not the Wizards' fault. That is not them screwing the system and making these late scratches. That is the NBA absolute stupidity with not enforcing an actual proper start time. I don't know what Adam Silver needs to do. Adam, call me and we'll figure this out. Honestly, how easy is to fix, mate? Game starts at 7. There you go, done. When should we start it? 7:11. No, 7. 7. If you want to be in a scenario where you are taking money from daily fantasy sports sites and promoting fantasy and gambling, that's got to be fixed. Anyway, Jordan Poole, questionable. Cam Reddish is officially questionable for the Lakers. With him out, it has been Max Christie, who's been playing that role. I've got Jared Vanderbilt as questionable. He is out, though. Aaron Nesmith is questionable for the Pacers. Jordan Clarkson and Lauri Markkanen missed the last game for the Jazz. That's what makes their lineup from the last game so hard to interpret. They were out, and now they could be back. Aaron Gordon is questionable for the game on Sunday, so I'm going to just put him questionable here for the game on Monday as well with a heel issue. Peyton Watson is questionable with illness on Sunday, so he may play Monday, I don't know. So we've got him as questionable there. And there's a bunch of probables. And the only reason I'm really listing these probable guys is because it is the Nuggets on a back-to-back. And they've got this really heavy schedule coming up. So Caldwell Pope, Reggie Jackson, and Nikola Jokic are all probable for Sunday. It is a back-to-back for Denver Sunday, Monday. So the Nuggets have done this in the past where they just sit everybody on one of these games. And that's possible that they do that on Monday. And the fact that they're sort of preemptively listing them as probable, KCP with an ankle, Jackson with a back issue, and Jokic with a back issue, makes me think there is some level of risk that these guys don't play in either the game Sunday, but more likely in the game Monday. But that is something that is yet to be determined, but I wanted to bring that to your attention because it has happened. It is a back-to-back, and we're not going to get that update until later on, probably not until at least post-game or at least early on tomorrow. So it's going to be a long time before we hear about that. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. It's also the easiest and the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. You don't have to worry about going up against people with spreadsheets and dealing with salary caps and pros and thousands of different people. PrizePicks just chucks up a projected stat and you say more or less. You don't have to do any more. And then you do between 2 to 6 of those individual player projections. You throw them into one of your entries and you can win up to 25 times back. You can do this super fast. It can be done in under 60 seconds. You can do it across multiple sports. They've also got PrizePicks' favorite players like Meek Mill and Andrew Schultz, who you can find in the community plays section under the promos tab on the app. And that you can then view some of the entries from some of the biggest names in the PrizePicks community as well. They've also got the reboot policy. So if one of your players gets injured and does not return in the second half, they just reboot that player. So go to prizepicks.com/lockedonnba. Use the code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. That is prizepicks.com/lockedonnba. The code is LockedOnNBA. That gives you a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. All right, that'll bring us now... Oh, what are we going to bring into? Yeah, that's going to bring us into going under the lens. Buddy Hield. Buddy has had one of those situations that we do talk a lot about on this show, where a player's situation changes for the positive, and that's great. Buddy Hield moved from playing like 20... Like I think the last game before he started, he played like 15 minutes off the bench. We went, oh no, like this is bad. And then they said, nah, screw it, we're starting him. But what also happened is he moved into the starting lineup, so the minutes went up, but then he went on a ridiculous heater, so two things converged. So it does make Hield look better than he actually is. And again, if you just look at the outside details and you look at the rank and you look at the production change, you go, well, of course, he's starting. These numbers this is what happens. I'm rolling now, I love that I got Buddy. But before you get too excited, there are things we need to look at. Over the last week, Budrick Hield has been the 21st ranked player in category leagues. That is the 3 games that he started. 21st in -1 rankings. Unbelievable. In fantasy points, he's been 63rd, averaging 33, almost 33 fantasy points. Now, Bud is a better category league guy usually than a points league player, but it's not that big of a difference. So what's happened? Again, the starting is good. He did play. The 2 games prior to Buddy Hield starting, 29 minutes off the bench and 15 minutes off the bench, he combined for 5 points. 5. He hit 2 field goals. 2 field goals in 2 games he hit. Then they said, screw it, we're starting him. And he went crazy. He shot 67% from 3 across those 3 games. 67% from 3. He shot from 2 in that time frame, 79%. His true shooting is 93%. So while it looks, again, on the surface, when you just look at cursory look, you go, well, he's starting. Yeah, his numbers are up. Let's go. We're rolling. He started and then became the best shooter of all time. Now, he is an unbelievably good shooter, but he's not this shooter. No one is this shooter. It's impossible to be this shooter. So it's going to push back, and it is going to push back to a pretty significant degree. Again, not saying that he's not a rosterable player, but it's not that the fact that he's up this high, averaging 24 points and 5.3 triples per game, is not because he's starting. It's because he can't miss. And prior to this, he was missing a lot. He was struggling. He had in the 5 previous games, 4 games out of 5 shooting under 30%, and none of them were over 50. And then he started, and he went 82, 71, 60. That's amazing. It has just got no chance of holding. What is interesting is that Over the last 5 games, he has a usage of only 16%. 18% in those starts despite being red hot. So, for the year, he's at 21 usage. Last season, he was at 21 usage. The year before, he was at 22 usage. Could it be that Buddy Hield, if he does remain starting, that he sticks at a lower usage number so that when all of these stats come back down, that his value pushes back to being just a back-end sort of player? I think there is a risk of that. It is the perfect storm of change in role tied in with massive, massive shooting increases, which might fool you a little bit into his overall value. Great, add him, roster him, use it, just expect a big, big drop-off would be how I would look at that. Thanks, buddy, for allowing me to put you under the lens. Let's look at the stream of the day options now for Monday. Dyson Daniels, this is with the assumption that CJ McCollum remains out. Jordan Hawkins is very hit or miss, we know this. Daniels is more steady and more productive. So for 10-team leagues, I do like Daniels over Hawkins. If we're looking in 12s, Jaden Ivey is an option there for me. In 14-team category leagues, I look at Jalen Smith in Indiana. Quite hit or miss as well, but some significant upside. And 16-teamers, it is hard for me to go past Nico Batum. Batum put up a very, very good performance last time out. For Philly, again, this is under the assumption that Kelly Oubre does not play. But if Oubre does play, then Batum may not start. And then for points leagues, we're still going with Daniels on Yahoo points and ESPN points, understanding that his contribution comes in a bunch of different categories, and that makes him a good option. But if CJ does play, then it is going to have a significant impact on what Dyson's able to produce for us. But at this point, I'm not expecting CJ out there. In terms of what is on my radar for the 5 games, the first one we look at is the Wizards and the Pistons. I want to see what is happening with Denny Avdija. Avdija's minutes and numbers and usage has all fallen off. At the start of the season, when we're all whacking ourselves with Jordan Poole, going, what is wrong with this guy? What a disaster, Josh. You suck. You're the worst in the world. When we're all saying that, me included, Avdija was getting all this usage and he was getting all the shots. That's strange that Denny Avdija is taking all these shots and Jordan Poole isn't taking any. That has flipped. And Avdija's minutes have sort of pushed back, but he's just not getting the usage anymore. Basically the same as what he's done all throughout his career. I do think we still want to hold Avdija in 12-team leagues, but this level of production is not going to cut it. So let's see how they utilize him, especially if Poole is out, if he can ramp up at all. For the Pistons, it's Cade Cunningham, who is starting to play better. We will see if Bojan plays, which I do expect, how that impacts Cade. What does it do to his usage, number one, but how does it impact his shots and his open looks and his ability to shoot better than 40%, which I do think will improve, but we will find out. In terms of streams, I am looking at Bilal Coulibaly, who is dealing with an injury. I think that Bilal is fine, though. He's ready to go. And then there's Jaden. Actually, Bilal played last game. What am I talking about? And then Jaden Ivey, who, again, was starting. I don't know whether Ivey stays starting if Bojan returns. I would hope that either they bring Bojan off the bench first game or they bring Isaiah Stewart off the bench. But who knows, man? This franchise is a disaster, so there's many, many ways that could go on. But I do like Bilal, and I do like Jaden Ivey as stream options. The next game is the Lakers taking on the Philadelphia 76ers. I want to watch what Austin Reeves is up to. He is playing these 30-plus minutes off the bench. They're using him in the closing lineup. I don't really get the point of it, to be honest. I don't really get the point of we'll bring him off the bench and be our sixth man, but playing him in our most important units anyway. Like, do they actually think that juices things with him? I don't know. The way coaches run things are so strange to me. But anyway, it doesn't matter because Reeves' numbers have been pretty strong coming off the bench. It just does cap a little bit of his minutes upside, but I think he'll continue to be pretty good. And one thing to watch with Reeves is his steal numbers have been up this season. For the Sixers, I think DeAnthony Melton's been very solid of late. He has, I guess, quietened a little of the noise. Well, I don't know why any fantasy analyst wants DeAnthony Melton. Well, the reason is what he's been doing, right? He's inconsistent. There are going to be a lot of up and downs. Let's see how he continues it, and let's see if we are able to get a little bit more minutes and usage ramp up for him. For the streams, Christian Wood would look nice for the Lakers, I believe, with Hachimura and Vanderbilt out. The other one to watch would be Max Christie if Cam Reddish is unavailable. And then for the Sixers, Nico Batum is the guy. I still probably look at him over Covington just because he probably gets 10 plus more minutes, and that is important as I just accidentally kick Obi under the chair. Sorry about that, buddy. So I think they are both interesting stream options there, Christian Wood and Nico Batum. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. And the weather gets cold, and I've been rubbing it in that it's been hot here. It's actually raining and cold here. So I'm with you. As the weather gets colder, the action for the NFL and the NBA and those offers, they heat up over at FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. You just need to find a team that you think is really confident in winning, put the $5 on them for the money line, and there you go. You're set. And then you get that $150 in bonus bets, and then you access all of the different ways that FanDuel has in terms of betting options, parlays, over-unders, player props, sides, totals, futures. It is all there over at FanDuel. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. Right now, go to FanDuel.com/lockedon, and you can get into the NFL season, the NBA season, and all other sports. FanDuel is an official partner of the NFL, and don't forget to gamble responsibly. Let us bring this bad boy home. Looking at Game 3, it is Portland and Indiana. This is a back-to-back for Portland. Scoot came off the bench on Sunday, and I'm recording this while that game is on. He looked much better. Old goggles legend Scoot Henderson, so we want to see that. But on the Pacers, what I do want to watch is what happens with Obi Toppin, because he's back in the starting lineup with Nesmith out. Nesmith may or may not play, but how do they use Toppin? Because the only game he came off the bench with Nesmith starting, he played like 33 minutes in that ridiculous game. So what is Toppin's role looking like? In terms of streams, Tamani Kamara or Matisse Thybulle I'd look at for Portland. And then for the Pacers, it is Jalen Smith. But if Aaron Nesmith is available, I do think he is a pretty strong stream there also. The Pelicans and the Jazz, the next game up. I want to see Jordan Hawkins because he has been all over the shop. One of the hardest blokes to get a read on. Look at his game log. He went bananas yesterday, and the game before that he played 20 minutes. Like, that is very hard to recommend as a guy to hold, to roster, or even to stream. Especially when someone like Daniels is available who's just way more consistent. How they utilize Hawkins when CJ returns or when Trey Murphy returns will be really interesting. Does he literally even play at all? He's unbelievable at moving, at getting his shots up, getting his threes up, but he's inconsistent. He struggles in a lot of other areas. But how they use him game by game still really isn't clear to me. In terms of the Jazz side of things, Walker Kessler returned last game, came off the bench behind Omer Yurtseven, and if these dickheads start Omer Yurtseven continually over Kessler, I don't know what to think. But it feels like Kessler was much better last game. You know my issues with these one or two category stars like Kessler and their fantasy value, and it gets overvalued by ranking systems, and then people will argue about how good someone is, and it's just not accurate, all that stuff, right? But Kessler can be way better than what he's been so far. Let's see what they utilize him for minutes, though. But there is a reason, or there's a chance that he sticks at like a 25-minute role this season instead of playing 30. That's possible. So let's watch that one. In terms of streams, it is Dyson Daniels or it is Kelly Olynyk, but Utah could open up a bunch of stuff. If Markkanen is out, if Clarkson's out, we look at Dunn, we look at Sexton, we look at Horton Tucker. You might look at Yurtseven again. Bloody, there's so many different options that they can throw out there, and that lineup yesterday was relatively confusing. The last game of the day is the Denver Nuggets and the Clippers. This is a back-to-back for Denver, as we've mentioned, so we don't know what they're going to be doing. For the Clippers, Russell Westbrook and his minutes is something that we need to watch. It's, again, very hard to predict. Is it 25? Is it 14? Is it 30? Is it 20? It's all over the shop. No way that I've got a real bead on being able to know how that's going to play out. But that level of inconsistency, along with the inconsistency or the shitness in shooting, makes him really, really tough to roster. But let's see how they use him. In terms of streams, Christian Brown is probably the best Nuggets one. Reggie Jackson, I do think is going to be a good streamer. He is solid there. But maybe Jamal Murray plays. I don't know. Jackson's also listed probable for Sunday, so is Jokic, so KCP is KCP. So a lot of stuff could open up. For the Clippers, Norman Powell is probably the better stream option there. He closes games, he scores well. Terrence Mann's in that mix, so is Daniel Tice, but I do prefer Powell as a nice points and threes with good percentages stream guy for the LA Clippers. No need to look at back-to-backs because there are none on Monday, Tuesday, but we do have the chunks, the Monday through Friday chunk. These are the streamable days for the week. So which guys do we look at? Kelly Olynyk and the Jazz have 3 games in 5 nights on low-volume days. I don't know whether Olynyk starts or not, but there's at least a bit of value there in him. Same goes with Jaden Ivey. The roll's a little bit up in the air, but I like the 3 games. Keontae George, I like the 3 games. Norman Powell, I like the 3 games as well. Daniel Tice and Terrence Mann. So 3 Clippers options with the 3 quality games coming up in the next 5 days. That is a little bit important for us to take a look at. We're going to cascade these stream options. We're going to continue to do this, I think. So what I mean is no matter what size league you're in, you can pay attention to the 10-team one and see if any of these guys are available, and then you just move down the list. Dyson Daniels and Jaden Ivey top the list, I think, as stream options. And then Scoot Henderson's available in a lot of spots, 42% available. Not sure that'll be the case after the game that he was cooking in the first quarter or so in that game that I saw earlier today. But he shouldn't be on waiver wires. I don't care how bad you think he has been. I don't care if you think he's a bust. I don't care if you think he's coming off the bench. I still 100% believe you need to roster him, understanding that it is going to be rocky and there are going to be some bad games. But I would not leave him on the wire. Kelly Olynyk, also a good 10-team streamer. And then Jalen Smith and Obi Toppin in Indiana, especially if Aaron Nesmith is not available to play. And then we go to the 12-team ones. You've got Norman Powell on there, Bilal Coulibaly, Nico Batum, Geordie Hawkins, Terrence Mann, and Bob Covington as relatively good options. Again, I'd prefer the top 4 on that list and some of the 10-team guys versus a Mann or a Covington, but they are still stream options with only 5 games on. For deeper leagues, Jose Alvarado, he's got an ability to rack up the steals. We know this. Daniel Tice at 9%. Christian Wood is an option with Hachimura and Vanderbilt out. He can put up big numbers. We know this. I just had to take Obi's squeak toy off him, his handbag that he loves carrying around. Corey Kispert is a good stream option as well in Washington, especially if Poole is out. Christian Brown and Killian Hayes round out our deep league streams. And then lastly, we look at points league streams. This is more for Yahoo, but it works for ESPN as well. Dyson Daniels, Jaden Ivey, Keontae George, Jalen Smith, Kelly Olynyk, and Stormin Norman Powell. Obi, yeah, you can have it in a sec, mate, as you hear him crying. Guys, that'll do it. Quick little Monday look ahead, some waiver wire streaming options. Don't forget to follow this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and on the Odyssey app. And if you're here on YouTube, thumb it up and leave your comments down below. Obi, say goodbye. We are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.